Oh, g'day scrappers. Today I thought I'd scrap out this Magnetreater. Basically it's, I don't know, I guess it's like a demagnetizer that demagnetizes magnets and stuff. It's pretty old, sort of vintage kind of piece of electrical equipment. And some of you might know that I like to collect vintage electronics. And I've actually got two of these. And I've already had one that's in really nice condition that I keep in my collection, but I just picked up another one just the other day, and this one is not in very good condition. The cords are all frayed and worn out. The front panel is missing all the screws, and it's basically, you know, in a lot rougher condition than I already had. So I thought just for fun, I'd start scrapping out some of the vintage electronics that I'm not going to keep as a collectible. And yeah, because this one is a spare one, I thought I'd start and just have a little look inside, see what's in it. And you know, with a lot of these old things, they do, you know, weird and wonderful things, but there's really not much inside. So we'll just have a little look anyway. It might be interesting. It's quite a heavy little unit. So I just cut off these cords, and as you can see, they're very poor condition. But I might still keep the connectors, because these are unusual connectors that you don't find anymore. So, you know, they might be useful to someone. So I'll just keep these connectors. I might just cut a little bit of wire off here. And yeah, there's different sort of plugs there. But quite heavy wire anyway. So, and as with most good vintage electronics, usually made in the USA, back in the day when they used to make things in the USA. So this one was made in Boonton, New Jersey, and so pretty much anything that's made in the USA back in the 70s and 60s is all top quality stuff. It's just unfortunate that America don't make their own stuff anymore, and everything's made in China, because that was back in the day when America was a real superpower as far as I'm concerned. They were, you know, when they were making, you know, like Detroit, Chevrolet, you know, making American cars, you know, it's all bloody made in China now, and it's same as electronics, which is unfortunate, but hopefully things will turn around. Maybe Trump will turn things around. Okay, all right, good heavy little box, useless. Well, this is interesting. So we've got a really cool looking transformer here, and another one here. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to throw these transformers away. I'll keep these transformers as basically just collectibles in themselves. Technically I can keep this whole unit together, but you know, I just prefer to scrap it out. It's a lot easier to store these kind of things than the whole big box. But that's cool. And there's a really nice valve tube here. Should be able to come straight out. There we go. Okay, General Electric tube. So it's a 5U4GA. So it looks like, you can see here, it looks like it's burnt out. So I'm not sure if this will probably be faulty. But just in case, I'll keep this, because I do, and I'll look up the part number, because I do know that, you know, these can sell for good 15 to 20 bucks each anyway. So I'll just check it, but I'm not sure. It looks like it could be burnt out anyway. And this hasn't been powered on for as, you know, far as I know, for many years. So it's a good idea to not to try and power on old vintage electronics if you're not going to try and use them, because or unless you're going to try and sell it, because they can hold a lot of the power. So we've got there's a few more little valve tubes here, and this one is really interesting. I'm not really sure what this is. This one here, it's a kind of it's got a tube in it. Tube load, yeah, I'm not really sure what it is, but if I turn it over, you'll see the what's it called, the mercury inside it. So not sure if you can see that. Let me get a better view. So if I tip it over, you can see the mercury, right? So obviously you want to be careful. You don't want to break this tube, but again, I'm going to keep this because it's very unusual having mercury in it like that. I've never seen anything like it. It's obviously got a purpose. And then on the other side, this is like a coil, beautiful copper coil. It's so you got the main dial here, and that's what the coil's connected to, and it kind of spins around. But again, this is a beautiful coil. It's in very good condition. So again, it's another piece to keep as it is. If I can just get off this top, so I'll just pull things apart, and we'll see what we can get. We've got some switches down the bottom here. So that's underneath. So underneath here, what do we got? Right, so we've got some capacitors here. Another one here, it's a really interesting one. I'll keep this as a collectible. It's called Tiny Chief. So it's made in the USA. So I reckon it's a really cool brand name, Tiny Chief. So they've got the switches here. Now these old switches are definitely going to have good silver contacts inside, so you want to get into them. And not a lot much more aside from them. A little bit of wire scattered around. So all this old stuff is very collectible because, yeah, as you know, they just don't make stuff like this anymore. So I'll just start pulling it apart and see what we got. Okay. So I've just disconnected this really interesting one. And the wires here, these wires connect to the switch, one of the switches, and these wires connect to the main power outlet. So the main power goes directly through this part first, and yeah, it's like a ferrite sort of core, and then you've got this tube inside. It's a really interesting thing, and as you see, the mercury in there, so it's about a third full of mercury, or even half full, and there's a spring inside there that sort of bubbles up and down with the mercury. So you know, maybe someone knows what it really is and what the purpose of the mercury is inside it. It's just a really cool thing. But you know, to me, I think that's worth keeping as a collectible, or you know, selling it as for someone that's restoring and that, and try and keep some of this wire intact. Obviously, the main part. So yeah, very interesting. I'll just cut some of this wire off. So this is what I like about vintage electronics, is that you don't really get to see this stuff normally, and when I pick it up, I'm really happy about it. So just trying to work out how to get this thing off without damaging it. Okay, I'll just use a Torx bit. So I think in there's a screw. All over the... Oh yeah. There's two of them. And there we go. So we've got the dial off, and we've kept it intact. We haven't damaged it. It's got a bit of rust, but all right. So we're almost there to get this main coil off, which I want to have a close look at because it just looks really super cool. Okay. Wow, that's awesome. So that's for the dial, left and right. For common ground load, yeah. It's terminal 2 or 3. So it's just general radio company, Cambridge. I think that's Massachusetts in USA again. So everything's American components, you know, just awesome. So, but that's a beautiful copper coil. I'm just not sure how deep the copper goes into it, but I'm not going to damage it just to see how far the copper goes. But it's just magnificent. Very, very beautiful piece of vintage electronics that you certainly wouldn't throw this in with your scrap copper and stuff like that, your motors and stuff, because this to anyone with half a brain knows that, you know, it's just, you've got to preserve this kind of stuff when it comes to vintage electronics. So even though I've got a lot of these, or I've got 2 of them, this, you know, even if the whole thing was busted up, you still got to preserve these just for the sake. You know, you might not find a buyer, but one day you will find someone that would really appreciate having this in their workshop just for display or whatever. So now to get off the transformers. Alright, we've got the third piece out. Basically just a regular transformer, I think. It's got these ceramic looking things on the top here. But, you know, it's a little bit unusual, but I couldn't really get it out with enough wire to make it probably, you know, worthwhile. It still looks like an interesting transformer for a collectible, but I don't think this would be worth selling. But, you know, if you're going by the theme of vintage electronics, this would fit in with that, no problem. So yeah, I just love vintage electronics. When, you know, if you're pretty sure that you can't sell them, if you do some research, or they're just in poor condition, sometimes they're better off just pulling them apart and selling the actual parts, because you get more money for some of these than you would for the whole unit, you know. If it was working and in great condition, sure, you know, you might get $100 for the whole unit, but you never know what you can get for things like this if someone's really after it and they're not sure what it comes out of, you know, because vintage electronic parts don't come around all that often. So this is just a, you know, again, it might be good for collectible, but probably not so good as a transformer, you could probably get just as good modern style, but still, it's just another piece. Alright, so all we've got left is these little valves. Okay, so that's the little valve tubes. So these valves, they look pretty good condition, so they might still be worth selling. The fact that it's got these little valve caps, nice original, with they're spring loaded, so it might be worth keeping the valve caps as well. Yeah, but instead of just keeping the valve, you want to get these bases out too, and because these will probably be worth just as much as the valves themselves. So that's what I'll probably do, and keep the whole unit intact with these covers, because I reckon the covers are really nice, spring loaded, and yeah, the valves do look good. So you know, some of these valves you can get $10 or $15 each for them, so they're definitely worth going for. And the rest, well, aside from this really interesting capacitor, there's probably not a lot left. Oh, we got the switches, but I really like this capacitor because it says Tiny Chief. I reckon it's a really cool brand name, made in USA. So I'll just keep this as it is. It might be useful to someone, or just a good, nice little collectible, I reckon. I like that brand name. So we've got our switches, some more capacitors in here, and then just a bit of wire, and that's about it. So yeah, these switches might be worth just keeping. Put the little screw from the outside back on. Try and keep them complete. You know, they could be useful for other vintage projects. If not, just scrap them out and go for the silver contacts in the side. Bit of wire, not much else here. Nothing really to get excited about. The rest can be, although we've got some more capacitors here that are also Tiny Chief. Tiny Chief. So add to the collection. There's one more, and then but that's it. So I'll do these, I'll take these out, and that should be it. Might even keep these really nice little globes here. But that was our Magnetreater, model 889, made by RFL, Radio Frequency Labs. Yeah. Quite an interesting little scrap. So our main things here, we've got the basic transformer, vintage. A really nice, interesting transformer made in Chicago. It's got these little two blowers up the top. Got our awesome, super cool coil here. Switch, you know, or a dial, but that is just looks beautiful. Really collectible. You know, this is something that I'll just put on my shelf as part of vintage electronics. And then this awesome, very unusual looking thing made by eBit Electronics with the mercury inside. So that's really, really interesting. Alright, well, oh, and also our Tiny Chiefs. Oh, and really big valve, but it looks like it's blown out on this side, maybe. So I'll have to get a friend to have a look at it and he'll be able to tell me. But still pretty cool as a little collectible anyway. And just our extra valves in there. So that was it. Hope you enjoyed the Magnetreater scrap out. And I'll catch you next time with maybe something else interesting in vintage.